Hi, I'm Kate Hudson. I'm 33 years old and a marketing executive who's worked tirelessly to build a career I'm proud of. I'm also a wife, married for 6 years to Lucas, who's not just my husband, but also my biggest supporter. His unwavering love and encouragement have been my rock, especially when it comes to handling his family dynamics. Let me paint you a picture of the family I married into. There's Roxanne, my well-meaning mother-in-law, who has an almost obsessive love for family traditions. Then there are Lucas's cousins Felix and Naya, genuinely lovely people who have always made me feel welcome. But there's also Rosalie, Lucas's sister, who's, well, let's just call her complicated. Dealing with her has been a real test of my patience. This brings me to the morning of the family reunion. I was in our bedroom, adjusting a new dress in front of the mirror, my mind wandering back to a very difficult chapter of my life just a few months ago. I had been in a hospital bed, frightened and exhausted. As a doctor explained, I'd need emergency surgery for endometriosis. It was a condition I'd silently struggled with for years. One that not only brought excruciating pain, but also affected my ability to have children. The surgery was a turning point. While it was necessary and improved my health, it left scars both on my body and on my heart. I chose to keep it private. It was an intensely personal experience, and frankly, I wasn't ready to deal with the inevitable pity or prying questions from Lucas's family. Rosalie, in particular, had a knack for making offhand, thoughtless comments about when Lucas and I would have children. I dreaded the idea of her turning my pain into gossip fodder. Lucas's voice snapped me back to the present. "Mac, you almost ready?" he called from downstairs. "On my way," I replied, taking a deep breath to steady myself. As I walked down, Lucas greeted me with a warm smile and pulled me into a hug. "You look beautiful, honey." "How are you feeling about today?" he asked gently. I shrugged, as ready as I'll ever be to face Rosalie. He held me tighter, his voice steady and reassuring. "Remember, I've got your back. No one needs to know about the surgery unless you're ready to share." Lucas always knew just what to say to make me feel supported. The family reunion was a long-standing tradition, held every year at a picturesque lake house that had been in the family for generations. It was supposed to be about reconnecting, but over time it had begun to feel more like stepping into a minefield. As we drove to the lake house, Lucas and I reminisced about past reunions to lighten the mood. "Remember last year, when Rosalie spilled red wine all over your white dress?" Lucas said with a grin. "Oh, I remember," I replied, laughing despite myself. "She said it was an accident, but I'm still not sure I believe her." Lucas shook his head. "Well, if she tries anything today, just let me handle it." We pulled up to the lake house, its weathered wooden beams and wraparound porch as familiar as ever. The smell of grilled food and the sound of laughter drifted through the air. As I stepped out of the car, I adjusted my dress one last time and took another deep breath. This wasn't just a family gathering. For me, it was a test of patience, resilience, and the power of Lucas and me as a team. Whatever came our way, Rosalie's remarks, the prying questions, or the unspoken struggles we carried, I knew we'd face it together. And with that thought, I took Lucas's hand and stepped into the fray, ready to navigate another chapter in this messy, beautiful, and sometimes challenging life. As we drove closer to the lake house, I turned to Lucas and sighed. "Do you remember how she announced my job situation before I could even explain it myself? The company downsizing was hard enough without her turning it into public drama." Lucas let out a deep breath, his fingers gripping the steering wheel a little tighter. "Yeah, Rosalie has a way of making everything harder than it needs to be," he replied. "She really knows how to make me feel small." I muttered, my hand unconsciously drifting to my abdomen, where the scars from my surgery were hidden. Lucas reached over, his warm hand squeezing mine. "Not this year," he promised firmly. When we arrived, Roxanne greeted us at the door with her usual cheerful energy. "Kate, sweetie, you look wonderful. Come on in, we've missed you too." Her warmth was comforting, and I smiled as we stepped into the house. But my relief was short-lived. Almost immediately, my eyes locked with Rosalie's. She stood on the far side of the room, wearing a smirk that made my stomach tighten. "Well, look who's here," she said, sauntering over with a confidence that always put me on edge. "Kate, dear, how have you been? Any news to share?" Her eyes flicked to my midsection, lingering just long enough to send a clear message. My chest tightened as anxiety bubbled up, but before I could say anything, Lucas stuck in. "We're doing great, Rosalie. How about you?" he said, his arm protectively wrapping around my waist. Rosalie raised an eyebrow, clearly unimpressed with Lucas's attempt to deflect her question. "Oh, just peachy," she said with a sly grin. "Always curious to see what's new with you two. No little ones on the way yet." Before I could respond or let her comment sink in further, her husband Ken appeared. He looked as awkward as ever, standing just behind her. "Hey guys, good to see you," he said, his voice a little too eager. "Rosalie, honey, why don't we go help your mom in the kitchen?" Rosalie sighed, clearly annoyed, but allowed herself to be led away. As soon as they disappeared into the other room, I exhaled slowly, finally able to breathe again. "Thanks for that," I whispered to Lucas. He kissed my forehead gently. "Always," he said. "Now come on, let's go say hi to Felix and Mia before Rosalie finds something else to comment on." The sun was high in the sky as I stepped out onto the back porch, the fresh air helping to calm my nerves. The lake sparkled in the distance, and the sound of laughter filled the air. Family members were scattered across the lawn, some chatting by the grill, others playing horseshoes near the dock. I leaned against the porch railing, taking it all in when I heard Felix's voice. "Hey, Kate, come join us," he called. Waving from the volleyball net he was setting up. I smiled and walked over, grateful for the distraction. "You guys setting up for a game?" "Yep," Felix said, grinning as he handed me a volleyball. "We need one more player, you win." For a moment I allowed myself to relax. This was what family reunions were supposed to feel like: fun, lighthearted, and full of love. I could handle this, but little did I know, this was just the beginning of what would turn into the most eventful family reunion yet. As I served the ball, I felt a sense of hope rise within me. The challenges Rosalie brought to the table weren't going away anytime soon, but with Lucas by my side and moments like these to ground me, I knew I could face whatever the day had in store. I smiled, grateful for the distraction. "Sure, just don't expect any Olympic-level moves from me," I said with a laugh as I joined the volleyball game. The laughter and lighthearted banter among my teammates were exactly what I needed. For a little while, I could pretend the tension in the air didn't exist, but I could feel Rosalie's eyes on me, watching from where she sat with a group of aunts at the patio table. Her gaze was sharp, cutting through the fun like a blade. I tried to shake off the unease, focusing instead on the game and the joy of simply being in the moment. After a while, Roxanne's cheerful voice rang out. "All right, everyone, time for the family photo." We all gathered near the lake, jostling and laughing as we tried to find our spots. The lake's calm surface shimmered under the afternoon sun, a picturesque backdrop for what should have been a beautiful memory. I ended up near the front, Lucas's arm protectively wrapped around my waist. His presence was a comfort, as always. The photographer gave us a moment to settle, raising his camera. Okay, everyone smile, but just as the shutter was about to click, I felt a sharp tug on my dress. "Oh, Kate, your dress is all wrinkled. Let me fix that for you," Rosalie's voice rang out, dripping with fake sweetness. Before I could react, she yanked hard on the fabric. A loud, unmistakable rip filled the air. For a split second, everything froze. A cool rush of air hit my skin, and I looked down in horror. My dress had torn open, exposing the scars on my abdomen. Scars from the surgery I had fought so hard to keep private. Gasp rippled through the group. I stood there, frozen in shock and humiliation. My mind was spinning, unable to process what had just happened. "Oh my God," someone whispered, the words slicing through the silence. Lucas was the first to move. He quickly shrugged off his jacket, draping it over me to cover my exposed skin. His voice was sharp and furious as he turned to Rosalie. "What the hell? Rosalie?" Rosalie's laughter rang out, harsh and mocking. "Oops. I guess I don't know my own strength," she said, her tone unapologetic. "Sorry about that, Kate." The fake apology stung almost as much as the embarrassment. My cheeks burned, tears already stinging my eyes. I couldn't bear to look at anyone. Without a word, I turned and ran. The voices calling after me blurred into the background as I bolted into the house. My legs carried me up the stairs to the nearest bedroom. Once inside, I slammed the door shut and locked it. Sliding down to the floor, I hugged my knees to my chest as sobs racked my body. The humiliation, the pain, the effort it took to keep my struggles private. All of it came crashing down. A few minutes passed before there was a soft knock on the door. "It's me, Lucas," came his gentle voice. "Can I come in?" I hesitated, wiping at my tear-streaked face. Then slowly I unlocked the door. Lucas slipped inside and immediately wrapped me in his arms, holding me close as I dissolved into tears again. "I'm so sorry, babe," he whispered, his voice thick with emotion. "You didn't deserve that, none of it." I clung to him, my face buried in his chest. Why does she hate me so much? I choked out, "Why would she do this?" Lucas held me tighter. "I don't know. But this isn't on you. She's the one who's cruel, Kate. Not you. You're the strongest person I know, and I won't let her hurt you like this again." For a while, we sat there in silence, his arms around me, a shield against the world. Slowly, the tears began to subside, and I found comfort in his presence. "I don't want to go back out there," I admitted softly. "You don't have to," Lucas said. "We can leave right now if you want. Or we can stay, and I'll handle everything. Whatever you need, I'm here." His words were steady, giving me the strength I didn't know I still had. Taking a deep breath, I sat up and looked at him. "Let's stay," I said, surprising even myself. "I'm not going to let her ruin this for me." "For us," Lucas smiled, pride shining in his eyes. "That's my girl." With his hand in mine, I felt a flicker of resolving night. Rosalie may have tried to break me, but she didn't realize that I wasn't standing alone. Together, Lucas and I could face anything. Even her. "I can't believe she did that," I whispered, my voice shaky as I buried my face in Lucas's chest. Everyone saw. "Lucas, they all know now." His arms tightened around me, his hand gently stroking my hair. "It's okay," he murmured, his voice steady and calming. "You have nothing to be ashamed of, Kate. Not a thing." We stayed like that for what felt like forever, his quiet strength grounding me as I tried to piece myself back together. But then, muffled voices broke through the silence. "Rosalie, how could you do such a thing?" Roxanne's voice was thick with disappointment. "Oh, come on, Mom." Rosalie shot back her tone, defensive and dismissive. "It was just a joke. How was I supposed to know she was hiding some big secret under there?" Maybe if she wasn't so uptight all the time. I felt Lucas tense beside me, his jaw tightening in anger. "I should go out there," he said, his voice low and filled with frustration. I grabbed his arm. "No, don't. It'll only make things worse," I pleaded, my heart racing at the thought of an even bigger scene. He sighed, pulling me closer. You're right. But we can't let her get away with this. His words sparked something deep within me, a new determination I hadn't felt before. I pulled away slightly and met his eyes. I'm done, I said, my voice steady despite the turmoil inside me. I'm done letting her walk all over me. This ends now. This wasn't just about standing up to Rosalie anymore. It was about reclaiming my dignity. No more hiding, no more shame. It was time to face this, scars and all. In the days following the reunion, I barely left the house. The humiliation replayed over and over in my mind, like a bad dream I couldn't wake up from. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Rosalie's smug smirk and heard the gasps from the crowd. Lucas did his best to comfort me, but even his love and reassurances couldn't quiet the storm raging inside me. Finally, one afternoon, I picked up the phone and called my best friend, Leah. I can't take it anymore, I said, my voice cracking as tears welled up again. Oh, honey, Leah said, her voice filled with concern. I'm coming over right now. Within an hour, she was at my door. As soon as I let her in, I collapsed into her arms, all the emotions I'd been holding and pouring out. Once we were settled on the couch, I told her everything. Years of pent-up frustration about Rosalie's bullying and manipulation. She's always putting me down. I explained, my voice trembling, making me feel small, like I don't belong. But this was a new low. Leah listened intently, her brow furrowed in thought. She let me vent until the words ran out, her presence as comforting as a warm blanket. When I finally finished, she took my hands in hers and said firmly, Kate, you can't let her keep doing this. It's time to stand up for yourself. I sighed. But how? She's so good at twisting things around, making herself look like the victim. It's like fighting a losing battle. Leah's eyes lit up with determination. Then we fight smart, she said, her tone resolute. We gather evidence, build a case against her, show everyone who she really is. Her words sparked an idea, one I hadn't considered before. Maybe it was time to stop playing defense and start taking action. Over the next few weeks, Leah and I worked together. Every time Rosalie sent a snarky text or made a passive-aggressive comment in the family group chat, we documented it. Every time she twisted the truth or tried to make me look bad, we made note of it. At first, it felt strange, like I was plotting revenge. But Leah reminded me this wasn't about revenge. It was about accountability. This isn't just for you, Kate, she said one evening as we reviewed our growing file of evidence. This is for anyone else she's hurt or might hurt in the future. People like Rosalie thrive because no one ever calls them out. Her words gave me strength. Slowly, I began to feel like I was taking back control, not just from Rosalie, but from the fear and shame that had held me captive for so long. By the time the next family gathering rolled around, I felt ready. I didn't know what the outcome would be, but I knew one thing for sure. I wasn't going to let Rosalie or anyone else define me anymore. The day of the gathering, I walked into the room with my head held high. My scars, both physical and emotional, were still there, but they no longer felt like weaknesses. They were proof of my strength, my resilience, and my ability to rise above the pain. When Rosalie tried her usual tricks, making a cutting remark about my outfit, I calmly called her out, using the evidence Leah and I had gathered to back me up. For the first time, she didn't have a clever comeback. For the first time, the spotlight wasn't on me, it was on her. And for the first time, I felt truly free. As Leah and I brainstormed our next steps, my phone buzzed on the coffee table. A text lit up the screen. It was from Ken, Rosalie's husband. I hesitated, unsure of what to make of his message. Curious, but cautious, I agreed to meet him at a local cafe later that day. When I arrived, Ken was already seated in a corner booth, his fingers nervously drumming the table. He looked up, his expression a mix of guilt and unease. "Kate," he began, his voice low. "I'm so sorry about what happened at the reunion, but there's more you need to know about Rosalie." I leaned forward, my stomach twisting in anticipation. Over the next hour, Ken revealed a troubling side of Rosalie's behavior, patterns I hadn't fully understood until now. He shared stories of her manipulation, not just toward me, but toward him and their children. He spoke about her strange obsession with money and hinted that something wasn't right at her workplace. "I think she might be doing something illegal at work," he whispered, glancing over his shoulder nervously. "But I don't have proof yet." By the time we parted ways, I felt a new sense of clarity. Rosalie's cruelty wasn't just a personal vendetta against me. It was a pattern of toxicity that spread through every part of her life. Armed with this new information, I threw myself into investigation mode. If Ken's suspicions were right, there was more at stake than my own feelings. This was about protecting everyone Rosalie had hurt. I began by reaching out to Rosalie's former colleagues, carefully piecing together her history at work. What I found was shocking. Reports of inappropriate behavior, conflicts with coworkers, and unexplained financial discrepancies. Next, I combed through her social media accounts, finding subtle signs of emotional manipulation in her posts about her children. They weren't overt, but once I knew what to look for, the patterns were unmistakable. But the real turning point came when I started talking to other family members. One afternoon, Felix pulled me aside at a coffee shop, his expression troubled. "Kate," he began, hesitating. "I don't know if I should tell you this, but what is it?" I urged, bracing myself. He sighed, then continued, "Rosalie's been spreading nasty rumors about you and Lucas, about why you don't have kids yet." My heart sank. "What kind of rumors?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Felix hesitated again, but when he finally told me, the words hit like a punch to the gut. Rosalie had twisted our struggles with fertility into a cruel narrative, painting me as someone selfish and career-obsessed, uninterested in starting a family. And that, as it turned out, was just the tip of the iceberg. The deeper I dug, the more I uncovered. Rosalie had been spinning lies and half-truths for years, turning family members against each other with carefully planted seeds of gossip. Mia was the next to come forward, sharing her own experiences of Rosalie's manipulation. "She's always been jealous of you, Kate," Mia explained during one of our late-night phone calls. "I think she sees you as a threat. You're everything she's not. Successful, confident, loved. It eats at her." Her words sent a chill down my spine. How could someone carry so much envy and resentment? As the pieces of the puzzle came together, my confidence grew. This wasn't just about me anymore. It was about protecting our family from the toxic influence Rosalie had wielded for far too long. One evening, as Lucas and I reviewed everything we'd uncovered, the gravity of our decision hit me. The table in front of us was covered with notes, screenshots, and testimonies from family members. It was overwhelming and exhausting, but also empowering. Lucas looked at me, his eyes filled with a mix of pride and concern. "Are you sure you want to do this, Mac?" he asked gently. "Once we confront her, there's no going back." I took a deep breath, meeting his gaze. "I'm sure," I said firmly. "This has gone on long enough. She can't keep hurting people like this. Not you, not me, not anyone else. It's time for the truth to come out." Lucas nodded, his hand covering mine. "I'm with you every step of the way," he said. With his support, I felt ready to face whatever came next. Rosalie had thrived in the shadows for too long, but the light was finally about to shine through. I took a deep breath, my mind racing with thoughts of everything Rosalie had done, not just to me, but to so many others. The lies, the manipulation, the pain she had caused were no longer secrets. They were truths I was ready to confront. "I'm sure," I said firmly, meeting Lucas's steady gaze. "It's time to end this once and for all." As we finalized our plan, a strange mix of anticipation and dread washed over me. The next family gathering wasn't just another event. It was the moment we had been building toward. This would be the showdown. Rosalie had no idea what was coming, but I felt ready, armed with the truth and surrounded by the people who mattered most. Walking into Roxanne's house for the family gathering, I felt a surge of confidence I hadn't experienced in years. Lucas squeezed my hand reassuringly as we stepped into the living room where everyone was already assembled. Rosalie's sharp eyes locked on me the moment we entered. A smirk tugged at her lips. "Well, if it isn't the star of our last get-together," she sneered. "Ready for another show, Kate?" Her words stung, but I didn't let them throw me off balance. I took a deep breath, studying myself. "Actually, Rosalie," I said, my voice calm but firm, "I think it's time for your show to end." The room fell silent. Every eye turned to us, the tension thick enough to cut with a knife. Slowly and methodically, I began to speak, revealing everything I had uncovered. I presented the evidence: Rosalie's workplace fraud, the financial irregularities Ken had hinted at, and the toxic lies she had spread among family members to pit us against one another. "You've been manipulating all of us," I said, my voice steady, spreading lies, turning us against each other. "For what? Your own amusement? Your own gain?" The weight of my words hung in the air as the family sat in stunned silence. I could see the disbelief in their faces, the slow realization of just how deeply Rosalie had woven her web of deceit. Roxanne's hand flew to her mouth, her eyes filling with tears. "Oh my God," she whispered, her voice trembling. "How did I not see this?" Ken stood up next, his face pale and resolute. "I can't do this anymore, Rosalie," he said, his voice breaking. "I've tried to protect our kids from this chaos, but it's too much. I'm leaving you, and I'm going to seek full custody of the children." Rosalie's carefully constructed image shattered before our eyes. Her usual sharp was nowhere to be found as she sputtered, struggling to defend herself. But the evidence was overwhelming, and the family support for her was gone. Roxanne approached me after the confrontation, her hands trembling as she clasped mine. "Kate," she said softly, her voice thick with emotion, "and so sorry. I should have seen this sooner. Thank you for being brave enough to speak up." In the days that followed, the consequences of Rosalie's action snowballed. Her company launched an internal investigation fueled by the evidence Ken and I had provided, and it wasn't long before she was terminated. Rumors swirled of potential legal repercussions, but I stayed out of that part. My focus wasn't on revenge. It was on moving forward. The family rallied around me, finally seeing Rosalie for who she truly was. Felix and Nia opened up, sharing stories of their own struggles with Rosalie's manipulation. It was as if a weight had been lifted from all of us. For the first time in years, our family felt united. And for the first time in my life, I felt free. Months later, I stood in my office, gazing out at the city skyline. The hustle and bustle of downtown life felt like a reflection of my own world, thriving, busy, and full of possibility. My career was flourishing, but more importantly, I was flourishing. Lucas and I had started talking seriously about adoption. The thought of growing our family no longer filled me with dread or anxiety. Rosalie's judgment, which had once loomed over every decision I made, no longer held any power over me. I thought about Rosalie now, jobless, divorced, and estranged from most of the family. While I didn't take joy in her misfortune, I couldn't deny the sense of relief I felt, knowing she could no longer hurt us. She had built her life on lies and manipulation, and now she was facing the consequences of her choices. As I reflected on the journey that had brought me to this point, I felt a deep sense of pride. The scars on my body, once a source of shame, were now a reminder of my resilience. They told a story of strength, growth, and survival. With a small smile, I turned back to my desk. My life wasn't perfect, but it was mine. And for the first time, I felt like I was living it on my own terms, free from the shadows of the past. I turned back to my desk, ready to handle whatever challenges came my way. I wasn't hiding anymore, or making myself small. I was standing tall, scars and all, finally free to be my true self. Have you ever had to confront a toxic family member? How did it change your relationships? Share your story in the comments. If you enjoyed this story about standing up to manipulation, don't forget to like and subscribe for more inspiring content.